sometimes the best option is still toxic. Only do the best that you can do, and the best is good enough. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Selena from Wholeness Campaign, and today I want to chat with you about this idea of non-toxic living. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into it and specifically focus on the idea of trade-offs. So I know that if you are healing your body, if you are looking to help support your health in any kind of way, that this kind of idea of non-toxic living can feel a little bit overwhelming, and this whole world on social media has created this kind of picturesque idea of what non-toxic living really is, and most of the time it is not realistic and definitely a little bit fear-based in that sense. So I want to talk about that. I want to give some examples of practical trade-offs and things that I've had to trade off in my life that have been realistic for me, and also explain all the other priorities in my life that also come oftentimes above the idea of non-toxic living, even though I really do try to live as low toxic of a life as possible for my health and for my family. So let's jump in. The interesting thing about non-toxic living is that sometimes the least toxic route is still considered toxic. Sometimes the best option is still toxic. And that's something that you're going to need to understand, especially as you are contemplating this idea of trade-offs, that the best thing for you in a certain situation might still be toxic. I made a list here of all these different things that I believe sometimes come above non-toxic living, and making sure that everything is this kind of like non-off-gassing, non-toxic, non-chemical living. And there are quite a few things that come above it personally in my life, making sure that everything is perfectly non-toxic. Some of those honestly include practicality. So for example, I actually made a decision recently where I have been kind of contemplating what to get for a portable changing pad. Obviously you want your baby to be on something that's organic and not full of chemicals and not super cheap off of Amazon. However, I was finding that pretty much every option out there is some level of toxic, and what I'm carrying around is going to be in my purse, and so it needs to be able to fit in my bag that I have right now, because I don't want to buy another bag. And so I ended up going with this like vegan leather option, which I thought wouldn't be awful, but ended up being awful, and I'm keeping it. It literally smelled so much like chemicals. I talked about in another video how I cleaned it off, how I made sure that it was at least not smelling fresh out of the bag, because it was really, really strong. However, I am still going to keep it. And it is not perfect by any stretch. I definitely know that that thing is highly toxic, but the other practical piece of it is that it is easy to wipe down and waterproof in that sense. So I'm going to pick a trade-off. Instead of bringing like a blanket or a cloth, which I totally could, I'm looking for something that's easy to wipe down. I'm looking for something that's small, that fits in my bag, that's a little bit more durable. And so I make trade-offs. Practicality is a huge reason why I'll make a trade-off when it comes to non-toxic living. Another one is if something is memorable. So if something holds a lot of sentimental value, if it serves some kind of other purpose in my life, but it's not perfectly non-toxic, I will keep it, because again, we're not going for perfection here. Another thing is going to be kind of along those lines, like my conviction. If I have something in my life that I'm really, really believe should be in my life, but it doesn't fit my mold of non-toxic, I'm definitely going to prefer to have that versus not have that. And I'm not somebody who like purges everything that is non-toxic, especially right away. It really is a process. And so if you are convicted, or you really feel like something should be in your life, maybe it serves some kind of purpose that is based around your morality, then I'm going to keep it in my life, because it's not a huge deal. Another one might be enjoying life. Sometimes you end up going into different places that are not non-toxic. I'm thinking even of like going into a moldy movie theater because we wanted to watch a movie, and you can kind of tell when a place is kind of moldy, and for me that's not a huge trigger, and so I'm not going to prioritize that on the scale of things. I'm going to put enjoying my life, my time above making sure I'm not exposed to anything. That also went for fireworks recently. We went and saw 4th of July fireworks, and I didn't worry about the fact that we were like getting very close to tons of smoke There's sometimes where things just are the way that they are, and in order for us to enjoy life, we can't be kind of trapped into this bubble of all that. Another thing is my wallet. I say this like, metaphorically. Another way to say it is finances. Finances can be a big reason why I don't worry about things. I don't have endless amount of money to be spending on all of the perfectly non-toxic things, and so I'm not going to. And I do have to trade off between making sure that it's non-toxic and money. Like, it costs a lot of money to make sure that something is perfectly non-toxic, especially right now because there's so much of a market around organic things and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes I will trade off for something that's cheaper just because we actually need to. I mentioned this in another video, but it's kind of interesting how finances can sometimes feel like they're seemingly restraining you, but then sometimes that they're also allowing you to be creative and find other solutions to things that you maybe wouldn't have before, and find this level of contentment even when things around you aren't exactly perfect. Another thing that can kind of come against my non-toxic living is going to be my interior design choices. So sometimes I buy things that I really love and I think they're beautiful and I want them in my space, even though they're not non-toxic. It kind of depends. Like, I'm not going to go to an extreme in this sense, but there are things, little things around my house, everywhere, pretty much almost everywhere in my house, that are not non-toxic, but I like the way that they look. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that that can be kind of like stigmatized in this whole space. But I think it's important you find balance. And I think it's also important that you look at like, what is the majority here and where have I set myself up for success so that I can actually do some of these like little things that don't really matter that much, if that makes sense. And last but certainly not least is my sanity. So this is something I will pretty much always trade off for something that is non-toxic. If I am feeling like it's kind of driving me crazy to try to find something or try to do something in a certain way to make sure that it's non-toxic, I do dig pretty deep, and you guys know that here on my channel, I will dig pretty deep. But if it's going to sacrifice my sanity, I'm not willing to go there. And there's always trade-offs. So if it starts taking up tons of my time, if it starts taking tons of my energy, again, that's my sanity. Like, I will respect and honor my capacity above and beyond making sure that my environment is perfect all the time. I know that most kind of like influencers that are out there in the non-toxic living or eco-friendly space, they don't really confess that any of these things will be trade-offs for them. But I do want to just throw those out there because I think the emotional side of this whole healing process is really important as well. There is not always a clear-cut solution that is better than another. Even when you look at things like battery-operated cars versus gas cars, and you think which one is better for the environment and all that. I'm thinking that everybody here knows now that even though there might be some benefits to battery-operated cars, there are also downfalls. There's always trade-offs. Like the batteries themselves, how they're processed and manufactured, and the parts and how they're made are actually not amazing for the environment. And so it's interesting that there is always trade-offs. There is never one clear cut, especially in this space when we're living in this kind of tension of a life that is, we would want to be clean and pure and good for the environment and good for our health. And then this other side where, we've been doing things the same way for a really long time, and real progress takes time. And where we're at is kind of this like toxic state. And so we're living in this tension. There isn't always a clear-cut right or wrong answer, and I think it's important to kind of keep that in mind so that we don't demonize or villainize one person or one side of an argument for doing something, because everybody is making trade-offs, and everybody's making the trade-offs that they think is best for them. Recognizing that everybody has a capacity, everybody has way more factors than we can even see going on in their life. And really what is most important at the end of the day is that you're focusing on what matters most for your health. So putting your energy in the things that are going to move the needle the most. And I think that your mental attitude around something can really make or break how you experience, how you feel when it comes to healing. And, lots of us are healing from chronic sickness. Lots of people are healing from disease, and something that's really important to recognize is that how you perceive your environment and whether that puts you in a state of stress or not is really impactful for your health. And I mentioned this in another video where I talked about how stress can actually be more toxic than toxins themselves. But I really do encourage you to focus on what matters the most for your health. So put your energy towards what you actually have capacity for, and the rest of the things, let them slide. Recognize that we live in a world of trade-offs, that there is not one perfect solution to everything. And as you slowly kind of are detoxing your body and your house and making it a safe environment, it's just really good to keep that in mind, that you can only do the best that you can do, and the best is good enough. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe to my channel. It is my passion to walk alongside people as they heal and grow. It inspires me and hopefully brings encouragement to you. Thanks for watching.